Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Converge Community Hour. We're going to wait another minute before we get started, just so everyone can get in the room. We'll be starting shortly. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Converge Community Hour. My name is Ann Sari, and I'm on the Converge user group team. I wanted to say a few quick words before we get started. The purpose of the Community Hour series is to virtually connect with all of the Converge user group members and obviously prospective members. The hour is held every other Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time to discuss a variety of topics based on member interest. So if you have ideas for future topics of what you'd like to see offered from the user group, please let our team know. If you've missed any of the past community hours, it is posted on our website, convergedusergroup.com, under the resources page. And also, if you're not familiar with the user group, we are a customer-led community connecting members exploring Dell converged and hyper-converged solutions to share ideas, best practices, and experiences. For today's community hour, we are excited to host a Dell Technologies overview on what's new with VxBlock converged infrastructure. So with that, I will pass it over to Nigel Moulton, Converged User Group board member and Dell Technologies Global Chief Technology Officer, to kick us off. Nigel?
Anne, thank you very much, and sort of good afternoon or good morning, depending on from where in the world you're joining us. And welcome to the Converged Community Hour, which today is focusing on the VxBlock 1000 platform and some of the amendments and changes that we're making to it. So over the course of the next hour, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through a series of material which very much actually points to some sort of future directions that we're taking with the VxBlock 1000 architecture, and also introducing some new products and some new concepts as a part of the work that we're going to do this afternoon. We're not doing this on our own. I'm very pleased to announce that we have a team of people here today to help us. Stephen Spencer from our systems engineering team. Stephen, if you're there, hi, good afternoon.
Hello, Nigel. Good afternoon, good morning, everybody.
And also Robert Swanepoel, who will help us manage some of the polling and answer some of the questions that you have regarding the overall architecture of the system. So good afternoon, Robert.
Good afternoon, good morning to everyone, and good afternoon, Nigel. We actually put up a poll, which is fairly straightforward, just to see if anybody could get the hang of it, and I see people responding already. If you haven't found the poll, you can just exit full screen mode and you will see it behind the screen that's been presented. We will have a few more of these polls, a bit more serious than this question to start with, going forward, and while presenters are busy, I will pop up a poll as well as an announcement saying that a poll is ready, and we'd be great if you could interact with us and let us know your thoughts.
Indeed. So, Robert, thank you very much for that. And as much as anything, this is just a way of sort of getting you familiar with this particular platform that we're using. The platform also has an additional functionality in that it allows you to ask questions of any of the sort of presenters that you're going to hear from today. And we already do have a question that's been posed, and the question is, will this webinar be recorded? The answer is yes, it will, and the playback will be made available sometime after the call completes, when you'll get an email from the user group actually asking you for your opinion of the session today, but also making the audio content available to you. We also have a special guest with us today, a lady called Suzan Pickett, who is actually another board member on the user group. And what we're hoping to do at the end of this presentation is actually make some time for us to have a conversation with Suzan about some of the experiences that she's had as a user of this system. Again, we put a caveat on that. We do have a lot of material to get to. So Suzan, if we don't call on you, please do not be offended. It's just that we do have quite a bit of work to get through this afternoon. So let's start off as we've been already doing. The thing I have to sort of mention at the front end of this is we are going to be talking about futures as a part of the webinar this afternoon. And that actually implies that some of the dates and some of the information that we are going to be making available to you is subject to change. So I just need to make sure that everybody is aware of that before we actually go into the material, because as I said, some of the statements we're making are future-looking, forward-looking, and some of them will have dates associated with them. We just need to make you aware of possibly some of the variability in the dates itself. Now, again, we've sort of got you used to the idea that we're going to be running a series of polls throughout this event. And as we can see from the results already, Robert, we have a fairly mixed group here in terms of people who are currently existing users and some who are perhaps not familiar with the platform.
Yes, it's actually good news. It's nice to be able to tell the VxBlock story messaging and demonstrate the value to new customers as well as old.
Perfect. All right. So let's get into the core material, because what we're going to do this afternoon is, a little bit of a refresher for folks who are genuinely new to the platform in terms of, why the VxBlock 1000 exists. Some of you might well remember a company called VCE and technology called the VxBlock. We introduced that concept just about 10 years ago now, and the concept was one of converged infrastructure, the idea that you would acquire a set of network, storage, compute, and virtualization assets as a completed system, and that a vendor, in this case VCE, would actually take a lot of the work out of the process of actually sort of physically building and deploying these systems so that you could actually get up and running much, much more quickly. And that approach has been phenomenally successful, because over the course of 10 years, we've sold probably north of 4,500 of these systems. Between 2,500 of you, or maybe more, actually have those deployed as customers in your data center environments. And people have been using them for a variety of applications, and some of these we're going to call out a little bit later on, but what you're going to see here particularly is a focus on mission-critical applications, applications where high availability and guaranteed levels of performance are absolute watchwords for what you need to deliver, and therefore why the VxBlock 1000 is a platform of choice with regards to that. I think it's also fair to say that when we first launched the VxBlock a little bit over 10 years ago, I'm not sure that everybody was convinced that cloud was an operating model that was actually going to be suited to their business. If you fast forward to where we are today, I think most organizations don't even debate it anymore. Cloud absolutely is the destination of choice. So what we're going to show you are some of the cloud-enabled technologies that we've embedded into the VxBlock to give you the possibility of taking advantages of hybrid cloud capability whilst leveraging some of the assets and technology that you already have. Today, we're going to focus on three areas. We're going to look at the architecture changes that we've made in VxBlock 1000, and we're also going to take a view of how you can take perhaps existing investments that you've made and move them into this new architecture to gain additional value and additional life from them. We're also going to look at the world of automated operations, and this will take two forms. One, a demonstration which is static that actually shows you how VxBlock Central works in terms of some of the workflow and automation processes that we've built into how you deploy IaaS environments for applications and workloads that you're running. And then finally, we'll take a look at a new capability called Cloud IQ, and we'll actually have a live demonstration of some of the capabilities that we have here, particularly with regards to lifecycle management. Again, those of you used to the VxBlock and the concept of the RCM, the Release Certification Matrix, whilst in of itself it was completely innovative 10 years ago because of the way that it actually simplified the process of upgrade and change in a block environment, we've been able to refine that over a period of time. And what we're going to be showcasing to you later on during this webinar are some of the improvements that we've made and some of the changes that we're making, which we think will be massively beneficial to those of you who are already invested in this technology. So let's start with the perpetual nature of the architecture. And here, we're going to take a look at two or three different things. One, if you are an existing VxBlock customer, what are we doing in VxBlock 1000 to extend the life and capability of assets which you're already invested in? And then secondly, to take a look at some new additions, some new technologies which we have recently just announced and which will be integrated into the VxBlock 1000 platform over a course of time. To do that, I'm going to hand over the microphone to Stephen Spencer. So Stephen, please, over to you to take us through the first part of the architecture conversation.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Nigel. I appreciate that. So when you look at existing VxBlock and VxBlock customers and understanding the architectures around that, our legacy VxBlock and VxBlock systems were all tied to a back-end storage array. As you can see by the picture up top, that is a customer that has two VxBlock systems 350 systems. One that is roughly 9 cabinets, another one that is roughly 3 cabinets, having to be managed as disparate systems. With the ability of VxBlock 1000, that it is a perpetual, evergreen, modular, converged infrastructure system, it really now allows our customers to get greater consolidation and greater density in a single management point of view and pane by consolidating 2 disparate, discrete VxBlock systems now into a single VxBlock 1000 system. And as you can see, we were able to take 2 systems and 12 cabinets, condense it down to 1 system and 9 cabinets, but now you have greater scale of expansion capabilities. And when you look at that, again, it is a 25% reduction in footprint, but more importantly, the soft dollar savings that you have in terms of reduction in power requirements, reduction in networking, and a reduction in management hardware and software. So Nigel had mentioned previously about how our customers are able to still get useful life out of their existing assets for those customers that are existing VxBlock, VBlock customers. And when you look at the technology that are able to be moved over into a VxBlock 1000, I'm going to go ahead and let this slide build out. You can see here with the VxBlock 350, we have the ability for our customers to take their existing Unity or Unity XT arrays along with M4 and M5 servers. When you look at VBlock and VxBlock 540 customers, you have the ability to take XtremIO X2 along with those M4 and M5 servers. And then when you look at our larger VxBlock 740 system customers that have Vmax and M4, M5 servers, it allows our customers to extend the useful life of those existing assets around Unity, XtremIO X2, Vmax, Vmax All Flash, along with the M4 and M5 servers by now rolling them into a VxBlock 1000. You can extend your life of those assets for up to 18 months because those individual VxBlock systems had an earlier or sooner end of sale, end of life date that now our customers can really truly extend the useful life of those existing assets. And when you start looking at it from a high value workload, critical business applications, but also when you look at the VxBlock 1000, it really gives our customers the options and choice to put the right data on the right storage platform, put the right application on the right compute platform, all into a consolidated environment and a consolidated infrastructure by now having a single pane of infrastructure to manage, but also you get the consolidation and rationalization of multiple workflows and workloads being inside a single set of infrastructure. I do want to call out that we do have 2 individual studies and white papers that have been published. One of them is the benefits around consolidation of your SAP landscapes along with the modernization of SAP onto a VxBlock 1000. And then also a second white paper around the benefits and value of taking a VDI and consolidating it down onto a VxBlock 1000 infrastructure solution. Again, you can actually take the SAP along with the VDI, and it all can actually commingle inside of a single VxBlock 1000. So instead of having multiple VxBlock systems, one for SAP, one for VDI, within the VxBlock 1000, you now have a single converged infrastructure system running multiple high-value-based workloads like VDI and SAP. So I do want to call out the recently released and announced new mid-range storage array product that's known as PowerStore. It was a big launch announcement 2 days ago. We will be able to introduce the new PowerStore product into the VxBlock 1000 later this quarter. So really when you look at being able to extend new technologies into the VxBlock 1000. This is a great example of that capability. Really, when you look at the VxBlock 1000 as a perpetual, evergreen, converged infrastructure solution, it allows our customers the benefit to roll new technology in, take old technology out, but always maintain that personality of a VxBlock 1000. Again, this is just highlighting some of the benefits around the new storage array that, again, was recently announced this past Tuesday. Also, with the VxBlock 1000, we do offer full support of our scale-out NAS solution known as the Isilon. This slide here is just calling out that we have now been able to include the more recently announced new Isilon nodes, the F810 and the H5600. Again, getting great throughput, caching with 4 to 8 SSD drives, but more importantly, getting benefits around inline data compression and deduplication. But when you look at the amount of storage availability, up to 960 terabytes within an 80 SATA drives per chassis. So that footprint, along with the inline data compression and deduplication, really allows for high levels of density. And then also, we do fully support the full realm of our data protection products. You can see here, we do offer full support for the recently announced Power Protect software and hardware line, where we have data protection for CI that allows our customers great scale and performance options, along with centralized governance, but also more importantly, giving our customers the ability to tier out to the cloud, as well as cloud DR and disaster recovery. We do fully support Power Protect Data Manager along with our traditional data domain devices, along with the recently announced X400 Power Protect appliance. Again, just kind of calling out the ability around a more cloud-enabled storage and data protection choices. Allows for backup and recovery to the cloud, long-term retention to the public cloud, along with the disaster recovery and continuous replication. Plus a recently released option within our data protection portfolio known as cyber recovery. It really allows our customers to get the full realm of protection with the VxBlock 1000 along with our traditional storage arrays and data protection products. Finally, when you look, not necessarily finally, but we also will be offering true end-to-end NVMe over fiber channel solution, utilizing our best-of-breed enterprise-class storage arrays, the PowerMax 2000 and the PowerMax 8000, along with utilizing 32-bit fiber channel switch technology from our great partner Cisco, and then utilizing enhancements and advancements within the Cisco UCS platform and utilizing the recently released and announced 24/8 FEX that gives 8 by 25 gig FEX ports. So really now being able to offer that true end-to-end NVMe to be able to move that speed of access to the data, and then being able to layer on top of that end-to-end NVMe solution vSphere 7.0. While we know vSphere 7.0 was recently released from VMware, we are looking at being able to include VMware 7 within the next quarter as well as an additional VMware offering for our VxBlock 1000 systems. When you look at the VMware portfolio and what we can offer from a software-defined networking and true cloud-like operations, we do now have full support of NSX-T in our VxBlock 1000, along with our rest of our 350, our 540, and our 740 products. Also fully support NSX-T as well. Again, I had mentioned that we will soon be supporting vSphere 7. Again, utilizing all of the goodness that is coming from vSphere 7.0 around Kubernetes support, improved LCM and DRS, refactored vMotion, and intrinsic security. And really, vSphere 7.0 really becomes the foundation for us to be able to offer VCF or VMware Cloud Foundations on that traditional three-tier infrastructure solution within our VxBlock 1000. It allows true full VCF stack along with full support of fiber channel support to be able to utilize VMware Cloud Foundations utilizing your traditional fiber channel storage arrays. I do want to call out that coming this quarter, we will be having a physical infrastructure enhancement where we will be introducing new cabinetry and new PDUs that really offers greater security, more alerting, and a greater load. I am calling out here in this slide the enhancements to the handle where we actually have the ability to create 200 unique users. So when you look at from a security perspective, being able to truly audit who is accessing what cabinet at that physical layer, opening up cabinets, to be able to have the ability to assign 200 unique users. Great advancements that we are getting with our partnership with Panduit within our cabinetry. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Robert for an additional poll.
Hi there. Thank you, Stephen. And I think the poll results is quite interesting, and it's certainly different from what we've seen in the previous webinars. The question was, which of the following is your most urgent need? And if you haven't voted yet, the poll is still live, so please cast your vote. And we've seen some answers for compute and storage scalability, which is, as been pointed out by Stephen, very well handled now within the VxBlock 1000 architecture, especially with the perpetual architecture being able to handle both blade and rack mount servers, as well as multiple heterogeneous arrays out of the Dell EMC storage family. But I think what is interesting to us, and Nigel, it would be interesting to hear your view on this as well. We've seen a lot of people respond with other. I think, and that's great to know, and we'd love to hear what that other is. So if you have answered other, please maybe pop us a note in the question, using the question capability, and just let us know what you meant by other.
Because I think in the past, so a couple of things, Robert. So firstly, what we've seen in a couple of these webinars historically has been that storage has been actually a focus, and particularly the modernized storage tab. And I see people are now starting to sort of vote for that, having made that comment. But I think what it talks to as much as anything is the fact that the asymmetric nature of a way that you can scale a VxBlock actually is one of its strengths in terms of the ability to independently scale the storage domain from the compute domain. And again, what we've seen in previous webinars is very much a focus around that. And if you look at the extent of the portfolio that you're actually able to bring into the VxBlock 1000 in addition to what you already have, it actually gives you a huge range of flexibility and choice around those different storage platforms that you might be looking to actually bring in. And I also point out, if you look in the attachments and links section of the webinar screen here, there are two white papers available for download. So Stephen called them out during his excellent presentation, one around SAP and one around VDI. So if you'd actually like to gain access to that material, you can actually click the link from the actual the attachments and links tab, and you'll be able to download those PDFs so that you can use them. They are independent research, as I said. They're not research that was done by Dell, although it was commissioned by Dell, but it actually shows you some of the advantages that we're able to gain when you are deploying, particularly in an SAP environment or in a VDI environment. Robert, can we just check the questions as well from the audience? I think we've had a couple more come in.
Yes, we have. I'll start with the questions, and maybe Stephen, you could help answer these. One is, any more specific month when we can expect PowerStore and VxBlock? And then also, could you expand on how VMware Cloud Foundation can be used with VxBlock 1000 today? Is the vSAN part of our architecture? And then just another question, which was in response to our ask for a bit more feedback on what other meant. And the question, the response was reduced operational overhead and increased availability of services being the current challenge. Stephen,
sure thing, Robert. Yep, I would be happy to answer those. So from from a more specific month on when we can expect PowerStore, last I had heard, we are targeting the June-July timeframe is when we're actively targeting the release of PowerStore. Around the VMware Cloud Foundation, so vSAN will be part of it because vSAN is a hard requirement for the VMware Cloud Foundation management domain or management cluster. So we will have an introduction of vSAN for the management domain of VCF, but the traditional workload domains will actually be utilizing fiber channel-based storage to whatever fiber channel-based storage array is sitting inside of your VxBlock system. So while vSAN won't necessarily be the main driving point for the workload domains, we will have vSAN in the architecture because it's a hard requirement for the management domain, but we will be deploying workload domains across traditional fiber channel storage. And then the reduced operational overhead and increased availability of services. So when I initially started, when you look at a customer that might have multiple VxBlock systems, because the traditional VxBlock systems were based upon individual and unique storage arrays, and each one of our VxBlock systems had an independent scale limit. So if you hit the scale limit of your initial VxBlock or VBlock system and you needed to have more compute or more storage, a customer traditionally added a second or third VxBlock system. So when you look at that model, now you have islands of individual converged infrastructure that you're managing independently from each other. Within the VxBlock 1000, because it's a perpetual evergreen architecture, by being able to bring in new technology, take old technology out, and the fact that we natively support all of our storage arrays as well as Blade Series compute and rack mount servers, it allows our customers to get that reduction in operational overhead because now you are only managing a single set of converged infrastructure, but that also then increased availability of services, and you really are getting an even higher rate of utilization of those infrastructure resources inside of the VxBlock 1000, and you are reducing your wasted resources or islands of storage and compute that aren't able to be utilized because you ran out of one of the others and it becomes just lost infrastructure.
Stephen, do you think another way of reducing operational overhead, and maybe I'm hinting a bit too much, could be automation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. With what we have done with our MNO stack, VxBlock Central, and our engineered workflows, we absolutely can reduce those operational overheads by introducing our engineered workflows and our automation to allow our customers to deploy infrastructure quicker via automation, to allow our customers to start focusing on more high value added tasks for their business and their customers.
So, Stephen, let me stop you there because that's actually the very next topic that we're going to be discussing. So I think that will also, highlight some of the work that we've done to sort of answer that question. Can I also just call out that we appear to be having a challenge with the attachments and the links in terms of the fact that only one of the white papers appears to be showing. So what we're doing in the background is we're trying to fix that live. And hopefully we'll have that completed before the end of the session. If we're not able to do that, and you actually want access to the VDI white paper, we'll find a way of actually getting out that paper out to those of you that want it. But please bear with us while we try and fix that problem live as we go through the rest of the webinar. So let's carry on with the material because we do have a couple more audience polls to do. But we also need to move off perpetual architecture now and onto automated operations. And this is a segue, Stephen, perfectly for you because what it's going to allow us to do is to explore some of the work that we have done in VxBlock Central with regards to how you can actually increase the efficiencies we've already been discussing through automation tools that we have designed and built. And so, Stephen, if I hand the microphone back over to you, let's walk through the automated part of this demonstration, please, through the screen share. Thank you. Sorry, not through the screen share, but through the slides.
Yep, absolutely, sir. So I had previously touched on that with the introduction of VxBlock Central, we have introduced engineered workflows. These are Dell Technologies created VRO workbooks and playbooks that our engineering folks have built, tested, and refined where we're highlighting here on this slide 3 different type of workflows and really the estimated time savings that we believe that we're going to be able to give back to our customers by utilizing these engineered workflows. One of them being a compute blade expansion. So we have the ability through our engineered workflows to take an available blade in your VxBlock system, utilize that automated script, and add it to an existing cluster, whether that's a vSphere cluster or a bare metal cluster if you're running a bare metal operating system like Linux or Windows. As you can see here, we've taken that reduction from 8 hours down to 45 minutes. We also have another workflow that we're calling out here to be able to provision storage volumes to an existing ESXi cluster. So instead of going in via the command line tools or Unisphere, for example, to do that storage work, by utilizing our engineered workflow, we're actually able to cut that time from 80 minutes to 6 minutes. And then thirdly, here we're just calling out that we do have introduction of workflows to be able to migrate VMs to storage. So when you look at being able to migrate workload into your system and being able to cut that time down from 2 hours to 6 minutes. I do want to call out that, that the way that you get into it, it is through the VxBlock application. We do have a tabs across the top here, and this is the workflow automation. And you would click the launch button there to actually open up the VRO interface for those engineered workflows. The beauty about our implementation of engineered workflows as it pertains to our customers, there's no additional VMware licensing needed to be purchased. Because we license our VxBlock systems with Enterprise Plus, that allows our customers access to VRO, and that's what we are utilizing as our automation engine today inside of VxBlock Central and our VxBlock systems. You can see here some of the questions that are being asked of our customers as data inputs into our engineered workflows as it pertains to server cluster name, what's your zone set, what masking view do you want to add the server into to be able to provision that ESXi server into an existing ESXi cluster. This here is highlighting the fact that all of our workflows that we deliver to our customers have a schema view. So our customers can absolutely peel that onion back and look at the details of those workflows. We actually have a methodology with our workflows to where we are utilizing a much modular approach to where we have subsets of code that are put together to where we are doing a validation and a verification before and after each step. That allows our customers, because we've taken that modular approach, our customers have full access to create their own workflows and use our pieces of code into creating their own workflows as well. So we've taken a much modular approach to how we have engineered and architected our workflows as well. Again, you can see here as the job is running, you get great detail in the logging of what's being done. And if there is a failure that happens, the workflow actually will stop at point of failure. You can utilize the logging capabilities to identify why that job failed, go in and fix that failure, and then rerun that job from the point of failure. So again, that modularity really enables our customers to streamline how they implement and troubleshoot the workflows if there is a failure that happens to occur. And then this screenshot here is showing that after the workflow has been ran, customers can go into UCS Manager, Unisphere for PowerMax, UCS Manager vCenter as well, to be able to validate and verify that the workflow ran successfully, because now you can see that new server that was added to your existing ESXi cluster to actually appear in vCenter. You can see it in the masking view in Unisphere, and you can see a profile has been successfully added to it in UCS Manager. I do want to call out that today, as of this date, we do have a current library of 45 published workflows. We are publishing our workflows on a monthly basis. So we are expanding this workflow library by the month. We do have a set of workflows that we are actively working on that will be getting published in the month of May as well as the month of June. But I do want to call out that we do have that library existing today of 45 existing workflows. And then to the question earlier that we had around the VCF and running it on a VxBlock system, you can see here with our idea and concept, we will have that true integration between VCF SDDC Manager as well as our workflow automation library of VxBlock Central. So that's how we're going to be able to tie in and have our customers get all the benefits and the goodness out of SDDC Manager, as well as that integration into the VxBlock Central workflow automation, to be able to give our customers that end-to-end cloud-like operating model and deployment model of their on-prem infrastructure. I'm turning it back over to Robert for our next poll.
Yes, thank you. We asked one poll while Stephen was speaking, and we'll cover those results now, but just a reminder that the next poll is currently live, and that's asking which of the following infrastructure operations do you wish you could automate immediately. It'd be great to hear your feedback on that, because, you know, as you see, we've got quite a library of workflows already, but obviously your input can help us focus on where we want to spend time developing new workflows. The previous poll was just related to the cloud integration that the VxBlock 1000 is now providing, and we were asking which public cloud services are a priority for you within the next 12 months. And the responses were overwhelmingly more towards disaster recovery with a little bit of long-term retention and continuous replication. And Nigel, I think this is pretty much what we've been seeing in the previous webinars as well.
Yeah.
Definitely seems to be disaster recovery as being the firm favorite.
And I would say even more strongly on this one, right? So in terms of some of the other responses that we've had, I mean, disaster recovery very clearly is the number one thing that people are looking to do. I think in the past we'd seen some commentary around replication, and I think the synchronous nature of replication, which we haven't discussed here at length, but which is a capability within the sort of VxBlock 1000, particularly when it's equipped with PowerMax, sort of gives you perhaps some other indications about the type and nature of the way that this is being used across multiple data centers, where actually synchronous replication of an application is actually one of the key features that you're looking to support. So, go on, Robert.
And if we look at, I was just going to say, and that often also falls into the disaster recovery use case as well. But while we've been talking, I think we've got a pretty good response already to our last poll. And if disaster recovery has been the traditional winner on that previous poll, we're back to our traditional winner on the next poll, which is once again people looking to automate mostly lifecycle management. But there is quite still a need for some other areas, with resource and configuration management being a strong second.
So, and lifecycle maintenance, or lifecycle management, I should say, is actually, again, a perfect segue into the next section that we're going to run through. Before I get there, we are having some challenges actually uploading the white papers onto the platform, but every single one of you will receive an email at the end of this webinar, which will actually have the white papers in it. So for those of you who are unable to download the second one, and we apologize that we can't make it available immediately, it will be an email attachment, so you will have access to that content. Now, we talked about lifecycle maintenance, so let's actually think now about that in terms of what is different in what we're doing now with the VxBlock 1000 system than we've done previously with VBlock. So what are the changes that we're making? And to do this, we're actually inviting a special guest because unfortunately Stephen's had some challenges actually making the screen share work from his facility. But I'm delighted to ask John Scarborough, another a principal architect within Dell, to actually join us. And John will actually walk us through some of the changes in lifecycle management that you can expect to see in VxBlock 1000, and this will actually be a live demonstration. So John, over to you.
Yeah, hey, guys. Thank you, Nigel. It's John Scarborough here. So I am a principal architect over in the European space. And just give me a couple of minutes here. I'm just going to try and just set up this screen share for you here and do your demonstration through this application. There we go. Share. Okay, so hopefully you should be seeing a screen share of Cloud IQ. Okay, great.
Coming across perfectly.
Okay, so one of the I guess jewels in the crown of Dell Technologies from the perspective of management and reporting is a product called Cloud IQ. It's been out in the market for a while now. And any client that buys any storage unit from Dell Technologies, or Sound Fabric, or converged infrastructure from a VxBlock perspective, gets Cloud IQ as part of the package, fundamentally. Cloud IQ is essentially a software as a service application. It's based centrally within Dell, and the storage units, some units use SRS to report back metrics on the running storage units to our central databases. And we use that data to analyze the state of the storage units that you've got on your premises. And also, we analyze that against all of the other environments that we see out there. We've got thousands and thousands of storage units being monitored and analyzed using AI and machine learning to understand what's going well, what's not going well. And the output of that is really a very fast-changing storage reporting mechanism I'm going to go through now and highlight for you really the power of this. And I'd just like to reiterate again, this is a free utility that comes with every storage unit and every Sound Fabric unit. So if you've got a VxBlock today and you've got storage in it, of course, you've got Sound Fabric in it, of course, you can access this today to get analytics data down from your environment. So this demo environment here shows a client that's got, on this screen here, 19 storage subsystems. They've got, I was going to click to the SAN tab here, they've got 6 different SAN tabs and 1 VxBlock environment here, which contains a PowerMax unit on it. But if I just come back to the storage units there, let's go to the overview, because the overview, the whole aspect of Cloud IQ is focused on 3 key areas. One is to reduce risk for clients that are running systems day in, day out. The second one is to allow you to spot trouble and spot it quickly. And the third one is to plan ahead. Okay, so you can understand what your capacities are and what's happening with your systems out there. So this is the front screen, and for this client, they've got kind of a whole bunch of systems out there, 27 environments in total, including storage, SAN, and converged. Getting a system health check across all the systems, so 7 of them are in a poor state, 7 fair, 11 are good. You're getting system alerts, consolidation. You're getting update alerts here as well for systems that may need code upgrades compared to our central best practice code bases. You're getting really helpful alerts like this one here, which is it's saying, hey, you've got a system here, disaster recovery pool 2. If you don't do anything to this system here, at your current rate of usage, within 5 hours, there's an expectation this is going to run out of capacity. So, it's a kind of do something now alert to you. Okay, from a performance impact perspective, it's managing all of your storage environments here and saying, hey, look, on this market research environment here, I've seen 2 blips in the last 24 hours where the block latency absolutely jumped above the normal level. You can see the normal level in the blue line at the bottom here. This leaps up to 11 milliseconds, which is kind of out of the ordinary. And then finally, real tick box items here, which are kind of give you some great feedback. Reclaimable storage. You've got 3 arrays here where it's showing you've got a bunch of storage that you can reclaim by carrying out whatever the local reclaim activities are on those systems. So it's giving you a very high level, great data immediately. But then if we drill into that, okay, let's go back to that viewpoint of all the actual systems that are out there. And we look at the storage subsystems here. Okay, let's go and have a quick check of this. This HR remote system here. This is a storage subsystem. And by the way, when your data is in Cloud IQ, only you have access to your systems. Dell technology staff do not have access to your data unless you allocate them the authority to do that. Okay, so this is a VMAX scenario, VMAX 950F. Shows you the resource pools, shows you the storage groups on here. It shows you the service levels, how much storage in the various service levels. Shows the virtual machines associated with this environment, okay, the VM machines that are accessing this storage. And it goes into much more depth in terms of capacity. So you can see on this array really what's subscribed and what isn't, what snapshots you've got out there, what's usable, free and allocated. Okay, you see the data on the resource pools in here, and you can click on any one of these to see more detail on that if you wanted, capacity and performance on a particular resource pool there. And you can see the kind of data that you're getting out here. So this is on one particular resource pool. You're seeing the latency, average latency, maximum latency, minimum latency, IOPS, average, maximum, minimum, bandwidth, maximum, minimum, and then read percentage, IO size, queue length. A lot of data here that historically has needed a whole bunch of reporting tool sets to be dragged out of the system, analyzed by our guys centrally, sent back to you for you then to analyze and publish onto your business. This can all be seen now through 2 clicks on an iPad or an iPhone. So it's accessible 7/24. You get alerts 7/24, and you can share it with whoever in your organization. This is browser-based. I'm looking at it through a browser here, but there's an app that goes with this from an iPad and from an Apple perspective, so you can iOS perspective, so you can handle this in whichever way you see fit. So let's go back through that then. So hopefully you can see there huge amount of data here that you can get out of a system, configuration-wise, capacity-wise, and performance-wise. Okay, and we think this is really rich. The feedback we've had from clients has been exceptional. They think this has given them a great amount of value for, as I said, $0 investment, really, from your perspective. This is a given product set that comes from the array that we have. And as I say, on this one here, you can see the IOPS and the peaks associated with that. However, it's not just the storage. If you come back to that systems view as well, and we go back to the SAN fabric very briefly here, you'll see that if in most VxBlock environments, you'll have a SAN fabric, a bit like in 93, 96, like this one here. And you get a similar but differentiated level of information. So you can see the partitions in the SAN fabric, storage zones that have been set up here, the attached devices. So these are the actual hosts and the virtual machines that are running on this system here. So that's giving you a huge amount of data there, and the components that are associated with the actual SAN switch here and status of some of those elements there. Capacity-wise, obviously a bit different to the storage because this is really more about the actual throughput, the ports, and then performance-wise, you can see the object activity on here. So again, it's utilization on the ports, the congestion on the SAN ports, the errors on the SAN ports, and then the link reset. And you can go really even drill down into these and look at some particular time points here where you're getting challenges in the environment. Okay. Hopefully, that tells its own story in terms of the richness of data here. And then finally, so that storage and that SAN, and that comes with every VxBlock that's out there. We'll come to Converge because here's a VBlock, and this is highlighting then the status of every component within the VxBlock. It doesn't repeat all that data for storage and SAN perspective because you've got that in the other views. But this is really about giving you a picture of the actual inventory that you've got in your environment here. So, the environment, the system type that you've got, the storage types that you've got on here. So this has got 2 arrays in it. You've got a networking situation here. So you've got your SAN fabrics, you've got your LAN fabrics, you've got your management fabrics. From a compute perspective, You've then got the domains and the FIs. You've got the chassis listed here. And if I just scroll down a little bit here, you'll see the server profiles. There are 4 profiles in this case. And then you've got the AMP management down here as well. Okay. And if we go into some of this compute detail on here, it shows you immediately the number of servers and server types you've got in here. You can see the profiles that you've got in the UCS Manager and the number of servers associated with each profile. Okay, so those are the servers, those are locations of the servers, serial numbers, and so on. Storage, we've kind of already seen that. I won't drill into that anymore. But then from a virtualization perspective, you can see the actual clusters that you've got on here. Now, in this case, it's just got one cluster, but if you've got multiple vCenters on here, which are the multiple vCenters in here too. Okay, and then from a management perspective at a high level, it shows the AMP and the 3 servers in the AMP and the configuration detail in there for that. Now, that's great. Really powerful information, we believe. You couple that with the storage and the SAN views that we've shown you already there. But I want to just flip back to the slide deck because the next phase of the Cloud IQ implementation that we are dealing with is expanding on this view here of essentially the inventory of everything that's in here. And we're taking it into a slightly different direction. So if I just flip back to the slides here for 1 second, and just roll this forwards 1 slide, or more, I think. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so we are amending that, not amending, but we're adding to that view so that we give you basically a component kind of milestone outlook in the first phase, where we will allow you to be able to see all of the various subsystems that are in here: storage, network, compute, etc., and the life cycle of those. So when those components, when the storage is end of life, when it's end of support, and so on and so forth. And so you can see at a glance, because obviously not every single component in the VxBlock goes end of life, end of support on exactly the same day and date. You may have bought storage tech extensions or compute tech extensions to add to a VxBlock. Those items have got a different life cycle, as you might imagine, from the base system that went in on day one. And even the system that went in on day one, the storage may have a different end of support date or end of maintenance date or end of life cycle date to the compute or the SAN switch or the network switch or whatever. This view will give you a snapshot view of where all the components are. And that will allow you to do 2 things. One, to understand at what point it makes sense for you to actually roll some of these objects forward to maybe a VxBlock 1000 from a VxBlock, let's say 740. You may have a lot of compute that's still valid, but the storage is going end of life. You could roll your compute forwards and get some new storage and have a consistent or an expanded life cycle associated with that. This view will allow you to see that immediately. Now, secondly, we will also be looking at the lifecycle management of this environment through this same view here. This is I think a Q3, Q4 activity that we're expecting to bring out, where we will be able to show you with a very similar view to this, what elements need to be kept in line with each other from an upgrade perspective, and what levels of code need to be upgraded from a lifecycle perspective. Because at the moment, as I think Steve mentioned earlier on, our lifecycle RCM methodology historically has been relatively heavy duty. It's been a kind of an all or nothing kind of approach in terms of the RCM covers all the components or none of the components. And we've sensed a series of requests coming in from clients say, can we be a bit more flexible around this? I'd like to upgrade my network switches or my SAN switches, but not necessarily these other elements of my infrastructure. How do I do that, and what is the impact and what is the risk? This view here will then allow us to see that and show that in a very seamless way. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that looks like pretty innovative functionality coming out in the future. I hope Cloud IQ has come across as a tool set that is going to give you a whole load of value today. So if you've not got Cloud IQ today, please sign up, get it installed. It gives you the opportunity to deliver a lot of value to your business straight away for zero cost.
So listen, John, so firstly, thank you for jumping in at comparatively the last minute to actually walk us through that demonstration. And it's very comprehensive in terms of the nature of the things that we've been able to show in terms of the functionality that you're going to get from Cloud IQ, but also for customers who are maybe not used to that functionality, again, an imperative, I think, to actually look at it and to see what sort of capabilities it brings, not only in the VxBlock environment, but maybe in the standalone storage environment as well. Now, Robert, over to you, because we've got two polls that we want to run just as we close this out. So, Robert, if you can take us to the last two, please.
Yes, I've put up the final poll, which is a follow-on from the previous poll we had. So please have a look at that poll and answer while we just discuss the previous results. So the previous question which we were asked, which were the following infrastructure operations do you wish you could automate immediately? And as mentioned, lifecycle management seems to be the top one there. But we still had considerable interest in resource and configuration management, as well as some of the other areas. And that segues nicely into what John was speaking about, the new, more modular lifecycle management approach that we're going to be bringing forward, and also takes us to the last poll, which is if you look at lifecycle, managing your system lifecycle today, we'd like to understand what is your most challenging aspects. Is that researching the firmware and software upgrades? Is that the interoperability testing? Is it the installation, etc.? So please have a look at that poll and respond. But in the meantime, while the audience responds, I know we've got a few more minutes left, so Nigel, perhaps we could wrap up and then we'll get back to the final poll results right at the end.
Sure, and we have actually had an additional question that's come in from the audience, and the question is, how many components, or can components from an old VxBlock be transferred into a new VxBlock 1000? So, Stephen, could you just take a quick run at that one, please?
Absolutely, Nigel. And the answer is absolutely. If you have M4, M5 blades, those are absolutely transferable into a VxBlock 1000. If you have Extreme IO X2, PowerMax, VMax All Flash, Unity, Unity XT, all of those storage platforms are absolutely transferable into a VxBlock 1000 as well.
Perfect, thank you. And whilst we've been answering that one, Robert, we've had a few more votes come in on the poll, which I think makes some interesting reading.
Yes, it does. I mean, clearly the challenge seems to be obviously around the interoperability testing of the firmware and system software upgrades. And that's where obviously one of the key strengths of the VxBlock with its release certification matrix and the testing we do behind that, has been one of the key value propositions of the VxBlock throughout its 10-year life cycle. But tying with that is also the challenge of installing those firmware and
right.
system software upgrades. And I think, as we get to a more modular approach and as we build more and more automation, we certainly are addressing that use case as well. But it's good to have that feedback from the audience. So thank you very much to everybody for their participation, both on this poll and the previous ones. We do appreciate it.
And guys, I've just noticed we've got another question coming in there, which is quite a key one actually around networking. Can you speak to the networking options of the VxBlock 1000? So very briefly, I know we're almost out of time here. So a VxBlock 1000 is all Cisco networking from an IP and a SAN fabric basis. Okay. We also integrate from a virtual networking perspective VMware's NSX technology and specifically NSXT was certified just recently. So that's fully featured capability within VxBlock 1000s. But to the Cisco piece, I'll just mention this because Cisco networking used to be a straightforward business years ago. It's got less straightforward these days with ACI. But just suffice to know that we can adjust and we can reconfigure the switches in a VxBlock 1000 to be native NXOS. We can configure them to be ACI mode or ACI mode visible in a basic NXOS variant as well. So long and short story is whatever Cisco mode you want to have in the top of rack switching in the VxBlock 1000 can be achieved and delivered to you to accommodate whatever networking requirements you've got in your Cisco network. Okay.
And in fact, whilst you've been answering that, John, we've had another one come in, which is, can we also take in existing storage systems that were bought standalone, and could we actually implement those into a new VxBlock 1000? Now, I'm going to qualify this as probably a no, but Stephen, could you just sort of comment around that?
Sure, absolutely, Nigel. So typically the answer is no, but it really is deeper than that. It really is, it depends. It's a conversation that you would have to have with your Dell Technologies account team to understand the age of the asset, the status of the asset, and whether or not it really would be a good fit to roll that into a VxBlock 1000. It's around the age of the asset as well. So typically no, but it's more in-depth, and it's really more of a conversational aspect to have with your Dell Technologies account team.
So, Stephen, thank you for that. So, I'm conscious of the fact that we are past the top of the hour, so I appreciate everybody for still staying on. And as we close this presentation out, again, just to sort of make sure that you are aware that, as I said, a copy of this material and the white papers will be made available at the end of this session, so that you'll have an opportunity to browse those at your leisure. We'd also appreciate your feedback on this session to make sure that the information we provided is relevant and is timely. And again, at this point, thank all of you for your time and attention. If there are perhaps people in your organization who you feel would also benefit from being a member of the Converged User Group, then you can find the details here, particularly at convergedusergroup.com, which is the website where people could register to actually join the user group, for perhaps people who are new to this technology but who might benefit from a networking opportunity with their peers and opportunities to meet at live in-person events when we move back to a situation like that. Now, if we do have an additional 30 seconds, we have had one more question. John, could you take a look at this one?
Yeah, I'll take that. It's a simple answer, and the answer is yes. NSXT used in conjunction with ACI, supported by Dell EMC and VMware. We need to look at the exact configurations. It's a pretty complicated business. However, the answer is generally yes.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So again, respectful of people's time, so we're now 2 minutes past the top of the hour. But again, thanks to all my co-presenters. Really appreciate your help today on driving this webinar. Thank you to all of you, the user group members who were active on the polls in terms of answering the questions and also posing questions to people of the audience. For more information or anything more that we can do, please do reach out to your local Dell account team. We'd be happy to help you. In the interim, please stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.